Hi, guys, and welcome to Out of the Ordinary. I am Mikey with a special guest here, Teal Gray.
Hello.
Hello, Teal. Hello. Welcome. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. As far as what I've seen, that you have a couple of books. You've
Yeah,
had
I've
some experiences.
had some weird experiences. That's just been my whole life. From the time earliest I can remember, I was always interacting with spirits, and I didn't realize until I was much older that not everybody could see that, and also that you kind of need to keep that on the down low. But I've had 7 bestsellers, so that's good, and got a host of books coming out over the next several months, and I've had, as you, I'm sure, have too, some experiences with UFOs, and the phenomenon is really interesting to me as it relates to even religion, if you will, because so many people are saying, well, UFOs are a new thing, but if you even look at Renaissance paintings, they're in the background. It's actually been part of the art and foundation of other writings for centuries.
Yes,
And
yes,
so I
yes.
think, you know, people know it's been around forever, and,
It
and
has.
even, yeah. And even in some of the artwork, from centuries ago, they have depicted alien battles in the air as if there were, fighting for turf. And I think that's pretty interesting. And I'm thinking that might be something that's on the horizon for us pretty soon, too. I think that's why we're seeing so many different types of craft.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with that because like you said, it's been depicted in Da Vinci is depicted in his paintings and everything like that. I tend to think that I don't know what other people's opinion is, but this is what me and my uncle think too, that maybe all these angels, God and everything like that, and not to be talking about religion or anything like that,
Right.
but I actually think that all of that is tied into extraterrestrial.
Oh, I do
Like,
too. Yeah, I
like
definitely agree.
maybe these people from like the biblical ages and stuff like that, maybe they were seeing these extraterrestrial beings, yet they were calling these people gods and angels and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and to these days, like now we have imagery and stuff. We have these images of these like character. I want to say characters,
Mm-hmm.
and well, it's all evolved now.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And I
that's
think that they
one.
probably just were describing them the best way they knew how, and with what they understood at the time. So they were coming. But, the wonderful thing is that there's so many um, references to exactly how amazing they were at astronomy and tracking the stars, in ancient
Mm-hmm.
times. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of tie-in with what they're finding more activity on this planet, or they didn't even know that galaxy existed, but yet
Yeah.
all those, what way back then, they were tracking this stuff, and they knew from something that was more fundamental compared to all of the technology we have now. They actually seem like yeah, no, you guys are have catch up with us still, but I think
Mm-hmm.
so. And I think some of the, just where we're understanding more about DNA and all of this kind of thing, I think that if you go back to Egyptian times, it kind of touches on some of the things that were half human, half animal, all these different things. I think that they were doing some kind of
It's
intercrossing with the,
extraterrestrial. They're extraterrestrials.
yeah.
And now let's go ahead and say hi to some of the people on here. We got Stephen P. Kitty Cat. What's up, my feline friend? We have Natalie. Hello, Natalie. We have Stephanie Holderman. Hello, good evening.
Hi,
We have
Natalie.
Liz. Hello, Liz. We have, here we go. We have Frank. What's going on, Frank? And welcome everybody to Out of the Ordinary. And like I said, I have a special guest tonight. It's Teal Gray, and we're talking about extraterrestrials, angels, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So Teal,
I think they all tie in.
let's hear a little bit about some of the books you've made and stuff here.
Yeah, well, my first one is Shades of Angels, because I'm a sacred site traveler as well. So I travel all over the world visiting sacred or infamous sites, because another book I've been working on for years, I just haven't taught myself how to just let it go. You have to wrap them up sometime, but it's Sacred Derkos, which is just sacred spelled backwards, right? And I have been, looking at ancient documents up to my current travels of places. What makes something sacred? What makes something a pilgrimage for some people? And then, somewhere else in the world, what makes that so dark or so prone to mayhem or murders, or and there are certain spots, like the world is crossed over everywhere with ley lines, and so the different energies, the way they flow, I'm just quite curious how they fit in to the different models I've made of where are the mountains and the lakes and the oceans, and where these lay out in the world. And so that's something that interests me. So that book's coming up. But Shades of Angels, while I was traveling, people kept saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to love this book because I've been opening myself up to the angels, but wow, mixed bag of tricks. And I thought, what are they talking about? And I realized finally that people just thought the word angel meant good. They just thought that instant. I don't know why, but they did, because there's as many dark angels as light. And with the hierarchies, each has its own hierarchies up and down, whole thing, exactly the same, just have different business to do. Right. And, but also I think that they work in league together, because, that's something, that's a whole nother story. But so that was the first one. And I kind of laid out for people that there's light and dark energies and how to work with those and how to recognize them, and some stories in there from my own life and several other people that are in there. Spirited Tales is a little bit more of the haunted places I visited and some of the pilgrimage, different things all over the world that had something that was either infamous or famous about it. And so that to me is more of a fun book. I guess if you're a dark person, it's fun. But I had a lot of adults telling me, that they got Spirited Tales and they took that on vacation with them for the family, because, they would read the stories, and it was almost like an adult campfire ghost story book in a way, So they were enjoying it like that. Scared Senseless came next. That was just more invasive ghost stories, I guess, where the ghosts were more invading my and several other people's space. And I did something that a little different. I updated Spirited Tales so that when you buy that, Scared Senseless is free. I've just put it in there. So if you get, Spirited Tales, you're going to get Scared Senseless for free. And because I thought they kind of complemented each other. Your Blessed Life Now is a workbook just to have a better life, whatever you might need to work through. Some people, there's a lot of things. I work in echo art therapy, which is using art and the written word to work through some of the hurts or challenges people have in their life. And so it's a workbook to help you through that. And so then past that is we had Reading the Unwritten, which is more my life story, and also some of the different tools I use and work with. I was taught by very young, too young, 5 years old, I started learning to read tea leaves from my German grandmother. And so some of that's in there, and different tools and just different ways the world works, and a little bit of angel speak is in there. Then Haunted Hill House was the next one, and that one was just released a couple months ago. And so Haunted Hill House, Darkness Resides in Texas, is about the Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells, Texas. And it's one of the most haunted places I've ever visited, with every level of haunting and interaction you want to throw in somewhere. And I do believe it has a demon there. I've interacted with them. We had actually a good conversation, which I know that's a little strange, but I sort of walk right down the middle. So I interact with light and dark energies. And so he knew I wasn't there to banish him or challenge him or anything. And I knew he wasn't going to harm me. So it's interesting, you know. It was really, it was a great place. They're, I think, the #1 haunted house in America now.
And we got somebody here, Stephanie Holderman says, I have your book, The Haunted Hill House. So,
oh, good, Stephanie. I hope you're enjoying it.
She also says, I'm going to get other books.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate you.
There you go.
You know, Stephanie, I wonder, can we ask her, Stephanie, have you had anything happen as you're reading the book? Because I've had people tell me that they've had dark shadows they've seen when they were reading it. They've even had physical sensation of when they're holding the book. And some people have had to tape over the back cover because I have a picture of my image of Toby the demon, and I think he's a little attractive, but it's scaring people a lot. So I just didn't know if anybody's had any reaction to the book.
I'd like to say something about things like that. You know, I understand from the standpoint that things can be transferred through pictures, audio, video.
Oh, so
it's actually true, because I used to listen, you know, to a Mexican radio station on AM. And it was called The Hairy Hand. In Spanish would be called La Mano Peluda.
Okay.
And this guy, his name is Juan Ramon Sayas. And this man, he interviewed a guy, I think his name was Gael or something like that. And this guy was possessed by some kind of demon. Yeah. Well, after he interviewed this guy, a lot of people started calling into that radio station and saying, you know, I've been seeing stuff, I've been hearing things, you know, different types of things. That same interview was the demise of this man, this radio station DJ. Yeah. Because after that, he had to get a priest to, you know, exorcise him, because he started feeling, you know, burning sensation in his body, you know, scratches and stuff. He even came out talking about it. He recently died a couple of years ago. Wow. And yeah, that is pretty scary. And I mean,
it is. I mean, it kind of gives me chills when you're saying that, because that's such a real thing. And I'm sure you saw the banner. Stephanie said, yes, she's been seeing dark shadows while she's been reading my book. That's really common. And that's something, you know, when I was writing the book, it's very much like what you're talking about, Mikey, when you get these sensations even, right? And I was in my car and I was not driving yet. It was, so she's been hearing things. My granddaughter said, she said, yeah, you know, throw some salt around and say a prayer, tell them get out of there. But I've had people that have had to stop reading the book for a few days and then pick it back up, because they kept getting the stabbing sensations that I got when I was finishing up the book and typing it. It felt like needles or knives in my hands. But one day I was in my car and I felt really, I just, you know, knew a lot of stuff was with me. And I just like, you know, you just banish this. And it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, there's pictures in the book even of I have a Suburban, the big, you know, in the Suburban, after the second set of doors, there's that big long window that goes to the tail end of the car, right? So I have an extended Suburban, so it's big, long. And it sounded like really a physical body got thrown through that side window. It busted from the inside out. Right when I was praying and banishing it, hit boom. And there's pictures in the book of it. And even the people that come to replace the glass, they were like, how did this bust from the inside out? And I said, I don't think you'd believe me if I told you. You know, I told him, and the guy was like, oh, I grew up in a haunted house. He's like, I believe you. But it's a thing. It's really, you know, in the physical stuff that can move. I don't know how to say what it could be other than it's like a spider web in my mind. And when you're connecting to these certain houses or these certain entities or demons or whatever that are attached, as soon as somebody's reading, it puts you in that realm. And like you're talking about the radio show, listening to it and having those stories, you're bringing it into your field, your energy field, if you will. And that's what happens. But also, Mikey, just to say too, for people who are Spanish speaking, I made the book into a Spanish version, and I also have it in Hindi because we have a huge Indian following.
Well,
so it's in 3 languages.
Great.
Yeah,
great
I wanted to make that.
I mean, a lot of us Latinos and stuff like that. Some of my family members, they're all of Latin descent.
Yeah.
And well, you know, they don't like reading in English. They rather prefer Spanish and stuff. So that would be good towards them. Like whoever wants to, you know, read in Spanish, it's really good because they can understand more where you're coming from.
Yeah, and that's what I thought about. I thought, you know, we have so many fans, and I do too, that are Spanish speaking. I'm going to actually, some of my more favorite books to them, I'm going to put those into Spanish, like Shades of Angel, Spirited Tales. I'm going to make those into a Spanish version coming up this summer, because I wanted them to be able to read that without having, because I don't think anybody stops to think about it's as if you're speaking, an English speaker, as if you were having to translate every word while you're used to it. I didn't want anybody who's Spanish speaking to have to do that. So I'm going to be making all my books in English and Spanish as well. So
that's
if
great.
it's not
That's great.
Yet, it will be, but all those versions in Haunted Hill House are up.
And you see, I don't have experience in, like, you know, the paranormal, but I have had experiences that have happened to me before. And here's stuff that I've done before. Like there was this one time that I'm sleeping and it's like 2 a.m. and I hear this strange knock at my room door. Mind you, my doors are all locked. I'm very paranoid. In my house, my doors, my windows, my curtains are all down and everything, because I do not want to see what's out there at night.
And you don't want them to look at you.
No, exactly. Now, I hear this knock at the door at 2 a.m, and I thought it was my cousin, because I used to tell my cousin, you know what, if you need to come inside. If you need something, you know, from the fridge, just come inside. Well, I thought he was knocking at the door, and I wake up and I'm like, who is it? I didn't hear nothing. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, maybe he didn't hear me, and I yelled out, who is it? Nothing again. I heard the knocks again. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, who? I'm like, somebody's broken into my house. I already had my machete with me and everything like that next to me, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna square off. So I go and open the door, pitch black in my living room. Nobody's there. Doors are all locked. And I'm like, I know what this is.
That's the worst.
I know what this is. So what I did was, old shaman had told me that if you have spirits in your house, go around your house telling them to get out. This is not where you belong. Go back to where you belong. So I opened my windows. I'm opening everything up here.
But at least you're smart enough, Mike, to open your windows and things. Pardon
my French, but I told them, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah.
Get out now. You do not belong here. Get the F out of my house.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started doing that, I started, you know, sweeping my house. You know, I started doing everything what this shaman told me.
Yeah.
Finally, at the end, I closed everything up. I cranked up my radio, and because they also told me that loud things scare off spirits.
They don't like it.
I cranked up my radio, and instantly everything was gone. Everything, the knocking stopped and everything like that. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm good.
Yeah. But Mikey, you were smart enough to open a window, door, whatever. The problem is people start to banish things or chase them off, but they don't open anything up. And so they're just chasing it and making it matter around the house. And then it gets worse. Right. So that's something
exactly.
I tell people, you got to open something. And let me explain why. Just because, yes, it's a spirit, yes, it's an entity, yes, it's a whatever it is, right?
It resonates.
Yeah, I mean, once they come into your space, they're now physically manipulating things, knocking on doors, whatever, they're moving, whatever. So you have to then open it up to give them something to leave through, and that's why. That's what people don't understand.
And that goes the same with what do you call it? Smudging a house with sage.
Yes.
You can't just go and smudge a house with your windows and doors closed. You have to open that up to let everything, all the negativity out of where you're at. Because if not, it's just going to stay there. It's just going to go somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah, they're just going to be back with.
And I've had quite a bit of experiences with spiritual things and everything like that. I mean, I did play, I once played the Ouija board. I had a Ouija board in my house, and I always had it up in my closet. And anytime I wanted to know something, pull it out, play it, call things up. And, I kind of think that's why I had a lot of things following me, which nowadays now I do, banish things out and stuff. So.
Did you ever, when you use the board, did you close it? Did you know to close it, or did you just leave it? Okay.
I would tell them goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's it. I would put the planchette out, take the planchette out, and I would say goodbye, take the planchette out, put it right back up where I had it.
The problem is most people don't do that. They get scared. They leave it open. They throw it in the closet or throw it somewhere, and it's just an open portal forever. And times move on, houses, change hands or something. And the problem also is whoever opened it has to close it. So just somebody coming in saying goodbye, that's not going to happen. That's not going to work. So that's why we have so many open portals from Ouija boards.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about extraterrestrials. Like what are the what have you experienced with those? Because I mean, I haven't had much, but I have had, and I want you to tell me a little bit of yours, and I'll tell you something that happened recently with an extraterrestrial being.
Oh,
so let's hear about this.
Yeah, well, I've had 3, experiences where I've seen them, seen something, and every time they were a little different craft-wise. The first one I saw was when, I think I was in my 20s, and I thought, I had just gotten a telescope, and I was using that. And then I thought, I don't even need a telescope for that. What's that? And you realize, it's not a plane. It's not this. It's not that. And I thought, it is. I really believe I saw a UFO. And then I ran to the house. It scared me. And I realized, what are you running from? It's just like a ghost. I mean, if they want it, there is nothing you can do to prevent them from interacting with you, and so that's the worst feeling you can have. But a few years ago, when I bought this property I'm on now, I have 2 houses on 3 acres, and we were having a kind of a housewarming party, and there were people here that were from friends that were from, a couple that worked in the government, a couple from law enforcement, a couple of professors. There was a big mix of people, and you just had a whole mix. And I don't smoke. And so I didn't want anybody smoking in the house. So in between the front house and the back house, there's, of course, the backyard, and then the acreage is all around it. And so they're standing outside smoking, and they're like, Teal, come here. And so I came out there, and they're like, we've been watching this for a few minutes, and this isn't a plane. And I looked up, and I thought, oh, wow. Because it was so interesting. It wasn't sort of the, maybe more like my book where you see those, classic spheres. This one was a little more like I'm seeing now on television that I hadn't seen before, where they're more like a Tic Tac, a little bit
right.
rounder than the Tic Tac ones, but still you didn't have the different color lights, which I saw before. And But then, so we're watching it and I'm like, wow, no, that's not. And then it would move slightly. So you knew, I mean, definitely wasn't a helicopter, definitely wasn't anything like that. And then all of a sudden it splits into two. And so, I mean, this went on for about 20 minutes, which is a super, super long time for something like this. And then it just moved so erratically, so quickly, and then would come back to back to its original spot. And the other one would move down a little bit and come back to its spot. But we don't have any craft that I know of that does that.
No.
So there's no sound, no lights, no nothing. It's just this white kind of a ball of energy,
pod shape, right?
Yeah. And so then they just went back together and were gone, just gone. And I thought, that's crazy. And everybody's like, but it went kind of over, past your field. And so we were like, let's jump in the car, go see what it is. Because there was a long road past my house that just leads to nothing. And then it's a dead end way down, because way past, probably several hundred acres of nothing but land past me is FEMA. And it's one of the FEMAs that I didn't realize at the time, but it's a FEMA that has clearance. It's one of the three that if something goes south, a president can come to. And in fact, he did. One of the presidents did come here before. But there's all these tunnels underneath FEMA. And I never thought about it until much later, but all that energy running underneath my houses, this property, I think that's probably why these houses have so much haunting energy. I know some of it's from the past, but some of it has to have energy to feed on. And I think all of that gives it energy to feed on, and right by a lake. And there's a lot of aspects to it. But so we go down before we can run to the front, get in the car, go out. Just before we pull out, I mean, we were running. So this is happening very quick. 6 black cars, unmarked, kind of suburban like, unmarked, come flying past down that road. And so we're like, what? And then we went ahead and turned, went ahead and went. And I thought, oh, maybe we shouldn't. But we did. And then one blocked, just stopped. Nobody got out. Nobody did anything. But I was like, we just finally backed up and went on home. And I was like, we shouldn't have even gone in there, because now they know like where we came from.
I would have done the same too. I've been like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah, we should. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So nobody ever came knocking on the door. There was none of that. But yeah, it's pretty odd, pretty weird experience. So I want to hear yours.
First of all, talking about, you had said you seen that pod shape
Yes.
that made sound nothing. My cousin, my smaller cousin, actually witnessed something in the backyard of our house where he saw a flying saucer of sorts, and he said it made no sound or nothing. He said it was hovering there. And I at first I was like, dude, come on, man. I'm like, you're BSing me here, man. He's like, no, man, I saw it.
Yeah.
So come to like maybe about a few weeks past right now, I wake up to see that the bunny I'm taking care of missing from its cage. The cage is all knocked over, which is made of reinforced steel and wood. Like, we're talking about heavy. I couldn't even pick it up, and I weight lift. That's a little bit too heavy for me.
Yeah.
This thing's knocked over, big gaping hole in the thing, and no blood, nothing, no trace of any blood. I find my bunny rabbit right in the front yard, dead, with no blood, no teeth marks, nothing. And
Crazy.
so, yeah, I called the sheriff because I thought somebody had broken in, originally. Sheriff investigated. He's like, no, this wasn't human. I go, well, it was an animal or something. I said, no, this wasn't an animal. And I tried to joke to him, I was like, it's the chupacabra. And I see his face go from like, normal to this really, really serious face. He's like, sir, you have a point there.
Because you don't know what he's seen. I mean,
yeah, I'm like, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I just joked about this, like, what? But that happened to me.
Could be. I mean,
I'm a firm believer of the chupacabra and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer that does exist. So
yeah. I do
That
too.
was
And
my experience.
anything can happen, and I've interviewed different people for the book that's coming out, the angels, aliens, and Bigfoot. And one thing that one of the investigators told me.
Teal, I'm gonna have to cut you off just a bit. We could talk about this right after the commercials here.
Sounds good.
And we're back. This is the second half of Out of the Ordinary. And Teal, you had something to say about angels and Bigfoot now.
Yes. So when I was investigating, and interviewing different people for the book that's coming up, I talked to one person, and they were very seasoned. They had worked for many years in the police force as an investigator, and so they were real no nonsense about all of this stuff. They had a long line of credibility. So he said something, though, that really has stuck with me. And he said, in his experience, it could be different, of course, with everybody, but in his experience, in all the years that he's been tracking these cattle mutilations, horses, all different sorts, where just like with your bunny, there's no blood trail. I mean, any kind of animal is going to leave a puncture wound, a claw mark, something, and a struggle in the dirt, because no animal, even a bunny rabbit, is going to go quietly into the night. They fight by instinct for their life. But these animals are all just nothing disturbed around them. Nothing's disturbed as far as grass or dirt, depending on where they're found.
The only thing that the sheriff did tell me was that something had it in its mouth. But we already went through the whole thing of it was a coyote. No, the coyote would have taken it and ate it already.
Yeah.
Any animal, any vicious animal would have taken and eaten this thing.
Yeah.
And this in this case, it didn't eat it. It didn't eat. There's no, like I said, no puncture wounds, no blood, nothing. But yeah. I did find a claw, and it was absolutely weird because we did a show on this. It was me, Liz, and Odd Mother. We did a show on this, and I was showing them the claw, and they're like, that isn't from anything like a coyote. That's not the bunny's claw. We talked about every possible scenario, and what did we come up with? Chupacabra.
I believe in it. I do. And, and the other thing about it is he was saying that in the cattle mutilations that they'd had a big rash of, all of their heads, all of them were facing east. And for anybody that does study different religions, all different religions, the East is very important, right? And so I thought that is the creepiest thing, that they were all facing east. So that has always bothered me a lot. Stays with me.
See, Natalie says there, it looked like a quill. It really did look like a quill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It looked like a quill. And now that you mentioned that it was the heads are facing east, the head of the bunny rabbit wasn't facing east, but it was in a weird position. This thing was weird. Like it totally freaked me out and everything like that. I kind of toughened it up, I didn't try to, show any fear, and like, but God dang it just like totally bugged me for days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it would, because it's unexplained, and that's the whole thing with anything like that. And also, what force, like you said, you could be a bodybuilder, yet you couldn't. That'd be something to try to lift that, or to just the force that it tore that up with to get it. And I yet, mean, with that force, there's no blood, on that.
Check this out, Teal. The marks, like the way the cage was opened up, this thing really had super strength to, because like the way it was torn and everything. Like, I mean, this thing tore it in a rage. This was like rage or something.
That's crazy. Too late now, but I wish you'd had a camera out there. That would have been.
You know what, Teal? I do still have video and camera footage and everything like that. I will share that to you. I will send it to you so you can see it.
I would love to see that. That's crazy.
I will send it to you. And so now moving on. Let's hear about Bigfoot. What is your experience with Bigfoot, or have you ever had experience with Bigfoot?
I have never seen Bigfoot, which is fine with me. But there was one instance when I was in East Texas, and way out, I was with my family. I was younger, probably 14, and everybody was at a cabin. And I just wanted to wander around, look for leaves, and just look whatever. And they're like, sure, and nobody thought about anything being dangerous because we were so remote. There wasn't anybody around, And so I'm wandering around, and I'm going towards the lake, but still more in the wooded area, because what I was looking for was, leaves and berries and just different stuff I was going to decorate and whatever. And I heard something bigger. I grew up with 3 older brothers, and my father was an ex-Marine sergeant. So I'm used to the outdoors. I'm used to, hunting and sounds and whatever. But this was just so, the snapping and everything, the sounds that I heard like coming towards me, like through where I couldn't see anything, were very loud, and it sounded just, I don't know how to explain to you how but when you've been outdoors all your life, the snap of a small twig versus something bigger.
Right,
you just
right.
know the sound. It's just a heavier sound is the only way I can explain it.
Like,
and
these weren't snaps. These weren't snap. These were thud.
Thud, and I was like, and so I couldn't see anything, but it felt so. All of a sudden, it's almost like in a haunted house when something dark is around, and it's not just a regular spirit or something. You feel like this energy shift, and it kind of takes the, all the space just goes so silent, and so all you could hear, instead of all the birds and the all the stuff around, you don't hear any of that, or the insects at all. It just goes silent.
Dead silence.
To something else. Yeah, it's an eerie feeling, and that's the only time I've had that experience outdoors, and I booked it for back to everybody else. Of course, they said, oh, it was a deer or it was something. There's no bears out here, so it was. I was like, it had to be a big deer, but anyway, so nobody went that direction, but I've never forgotten that, and I think about it while I listen to people talk about their experiences where leading up to the sighting or leading up to this or that, they would hear these things. And I thought, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So that could have been something else, but I don't know what would have been so strong and heavy. It wasn't a deer, because I've been around deer. That wasn't it. They make a different sound, I've spent actually a lot of time around deer, and they make a different sound with their hooves and a different sound with the way things, even if they're moving through something, if they're spooked, when they move through and the brush snaps, it's a different sound. This was something else.
Yeah. So, now, Teal, tell me this. I tend to think that Bigfoot is not anything extraterrestrial. More like it's an interdimensional being. Yeah. I think that there are actually portals that this thing goes through. This is why nobody's been able to find it. They've seen it, they've got it on video, but I think this thing can go through portals and, just disappear, out of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. There has to be something to that. And, I tell people you don't even have to get very deep into it, but just check out a little bit of quantum physics and dimensions, and, you'll understand how this is quite possible, and if you look at how many sightings of lights, odd lights, like UFOs happen, and then people will have more numbers of Bigfoot sightings during those times. So is it connected to that? Maybe. But, does it mean Bigfoot's an alien? It could be, but it also could be more like just the sighting or the movement, can align with these things and not be related. And they could be moving dimensionally. And that's why you never find a body, you never find anything else. And if they are interdimensional, which is, I'm right there with you on that, they wouldn't leave a lot of residue behind. They wouldn't leave that behind. It would go with them into the other dimension. It's like the door opens, the door closes, just like we talk about with hauntings, portals, that spirits move through. It's an energy. So you're still working with energy. Even though it's an interdimensional entity or being or whatever, you're still working with that. But in Tibet, they very much would say, Mikey, you're onto something, because they talk about the Yeti, which is more aggressive and violent than Bigfoot, although Bigfoot's had a lot of violent things it's interacted with. Sometimes it doesn't have as big a reputation as a Yeti, but a Yeti looks very much like a Bigfoot, right? And then there's swamp monsters. So there's different types, but the Yeti is believed to be an interdimensional being that protects the temples, there. And monks will say, oh, that was probably the Yeti protecting us. And when it feels we're threatened or something's coming in, sometimes they react violently, and they are seen and then poof, they're gone just in an instant, like not moving, not like, oh, they went off, into the sun. They just are there and not there, which would be a dimensional shift.
And it seems like we have a fan of yours here, Violet Wagner. She says, hello. She says, hello, I'm new here. I'm a big fan of Teal's writing and can't wait to purchase more books. I love it.
Thank you, Violet.
Then she says, hi, Mikey. Hi, Teal. I'm completely fangirling right now. So there you go.
Well, thank you so much, Violet. I appreciate it.
And also, welcome, Violet Wagner. We welcome you to Out of the Ordinary.
Yeah, I think that we have to open our minds up, just like with everything else. You have to not be stuck in old thinking, because it just is not going to work. Everything's moving at a faster pace now. The world, the earth, everything is changing. You're having, I predicted years ago about these rogue waves now. At first, it hadn't been happening. So people are like, oh, no, Teal. And I was like, no, the weather, the earth is just going to be shifting. We're going to getting waves like we've never seen before. And of course that happened, and it's been happening, and we're going to have more things happen. It's just everything evolves, and so does the earth, so does all of these things, but we're caught up in it. But so are these other dimensions that are happening and correlating right now. Like there's other Mikeys and Teals and Violets and Liz's and all this stuff. Everything's happening at different situations, playing out, past, present, future.
Wouldn't that be called like a multiverse, or like a
yeah,
like
this, Mikey,
the Mandela effect.
Yes,
the Mandela effect. I'm a big believer in the Mandela effect, and let me tell you, I do believe that in 2012 our real world ended. We entered into another world. So that's why we have all these memories of these things that, that we remember, but yet they did not exist. Like that movie, Kazam or Shazam, whatever. That one with Sinbad.
Yeah.
I do remember having that film.
Okay. Okay.
God knows what happened to it. I think I threw it away or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I had it. I remember seeing that movie, and I remember a certain pieces of time where I'm like, wait a minute, did this really happen?
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, I think some things, just like quantum physics, people are like, oh, that's crazier than you can think. Yes, but yet it doesn't mean it's not happening. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of these things. And, people have been catching accidentally glitches.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Somebody, I wish I could remember to give them credit for it, but if you looked this up, typed it in YouTube, you'd find it because it's been viral for a long time. But this guy was just filming. He just likes to kind of people watch, and he was in traffic, and he was like, "Oh, look at this dude! He's got a nice car or whatever." And then he noticed, like, "Whoa, wait!" And he's filming. And that's right. So, Psychomantium, you're right. Just because it doesn't seem that way doesn't mean it's not real. And so he's filming, and then he realizes this guy is looking up and checking himself up in the rearview mirror, but the side mirror is showing him still looking forward. And like it's like he's like, I didn't do this. This is not a trick, and and that's not the only glitch that has been caught. But it's
exactly. I was going to tell you about one of them that I've seen on YouTube. It's about that plane. They're driving in a car. The guy's filming out, and he sees this plane, and it's just standing there. I mean, these guys are moving at a rate of speed, and that plane is just like stalled right there. And he's like, "Are you seeing this? This thing's not even moving. It's not moving at all."
Yeah. And I know, some people will explain that away as, depending on where you are and the lighting and this and that, some things can seem like that, but that went on for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think that rate of speed thing that they're trying to explain it away with really works for me, because that, if you watch it, it's a long time that it's just a stationary plane. And it's like, that's a glitch in the universe or the multiverse.
It is.
Yeah, it is crazy. So, and the thing is, like with the aliens we've been talking about, cloaking technology for us, we're evolving in it, right? But there's been more and more UFOs that have been seen. Well, they think it's a UFO, right? Because it's more like a cloud that doesn't look like a normal cloud. It looks like a UFO with clouds attached to it, and
camouflage.
Different rates and different things, and around the world, this is globally. And I think that it's just so that they can go about their business during the day. They cloak to whatever they need to. They've got stuff to do. They're not going to wait, for anything else. And they actually are able to go unseen and unnoticed, unless it's really something, better during the day than at night, because people are starting to see them with the lights or their glow or whatever. Yeah. And so the daytime, I mean, we might be really astonished. It might be just like ghosts, at any given time, there's a ton of them surrounding you at different times, and sometimes not at all. And it might be the same situation with UFOs. We just can't see them.
And it seems like we got a question here from Violet. Okay. She asked, Teal, is the new book out already? If not, when does it come out? I just picked up your Blessed Life workbook, and it's so helpful. Thank you.
Oh, great, Violet. Yeah, I'm going to have, there was more stuff that I wanted to add to the Angels, Aliens, and Bigfoot book. So it's going to come out next month in August. And I'll make sure to shout out to Mikey and Liz and everybody and let them know when it comes out. But it'll be out next month.
All right. So Jane Doe here says, this is such a neat topic. You guys are great, Mikey and Teal. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Calvin Galvin Jr. here says, we're merely in a simulation.
A lot of people think that, Calvin. A lot of people think that. And with these glitches, they're just like, see, I told you so. Told you so.
It's like maybe what if we're actually in like some kind of like video game or something, That is the question. Like maybe somebody's playing, and our lives are this video game thing here, and sometimes it messes up. Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to just start it up.
Reset.
Right. All those, what is it? All the eclipses. There's not an eclipse. They just had to reboot.
Yeah. Right. So Teal, tell me about like angels, like the experiences with that,
Well, I've had experiences with light and dark, and they are very different feelings. But I will say, for me, I know a lot of people have some very scary, horrible experiences that they've had with dark angels, of different levels or demons or whatever. It's been great because they have only instructed me. They haven't done anything negative to me or shown themselves to me. I've felt that growling it's a mix of a million voices in one, and growling animal sounds and human all at once. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt that hot, wet breath right there, and then I had, at the same time, it sounded like boulders or something crashing into the roof. And I thought, oh my God. My first thought is it a plane, like, is it dropping something? And so I run out the front door. This is middle of the day. I run out the front door, beautiful sunny day. And all of a sudden, as soon as you break that threshold from my front door, my house, to the outside, there's nothing. There's not a sound. It's just the birds are chirping, nothing. I'm looking up at the house. There's nothing above my house. This was in the front house. I'm in the back house right now. I use it for my office, but this was the front house, and there was nothing. And I'm looking up, and I run back in like, what was that? And you still hear the sounds like something come through the roof. And I had just recently said there was, my aunt had said she had an experience like that. And I thought, over-medicated, under-medicated, I don't know. It just sounded too fantastical, right? And so they were giving me that experience to show me, yeah, it's fantastical, but that doesn't mean it's not real. And so just moving from outside back inside, I did this like 3 times, nothing. But you come in, and then it was this horrible, like, kind of a shrill scream before it left, and then everything went silent. Everything was fine, no problem. But that was teaching me that lesson, right? And then there was another time, it was dark. And the reason I know it's dark is I've had so many years, I'm not a spring chicken. And I have had, my whole life has been interacting with spirits. And I can feel the difference. Was it a human spirit? Was it something more alien? Was it something that's never lived as a human? Is it an elemental? All these different things. You learn to discern that, just part of your energy. So light ones, I had already had experience with a light one. And I knew this was another dark one. They just feel different. The energy's different. And it was very seductive, very, had the real raspy, kind of sexy voice. Honestly, I know people don't like me saying that, but that's what it was. So it was very sexy, very raspy. And it said, you don't believe. And again, I'm awake. This is, daytime. I'm awake, and I'm looking at the window. It had been icy. I live in North Texas. We don't get a lot of heavy, we didn't used to get a lot of heavy ice. And I was looking at my fruit trees that I had planted from babies, and I think, God, all these years, you had a great harvest. Now, are they even alive? Because how could they be after this many days of freezing? And then here comes this, before I can even pray or ask to get it away from me, it boom. And it just says, you don't believe that we can mess with people's minds and how easy it is for us to manipulate humans. And you don't believe it. So I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to let you remember this. And it's like, look outside. And I'm looking out the window again. And all of a sudden, it was an instant. There was no delay. I look out, and I'm like instantly filled with, oh my gosh, I got to go get all my friends. I got to call everybody I know. Everybody's got to bring baskets or something or whatever to get this harvest. These trees are just filled with pears and fruit, and they're all on the ground because there's so much. It's just how on earth am I going to get this harvest in, right? And then boom, you hear this laugh, and this kind of touch, going down my neck. And he's got this real deep, kind of raspy laugh. And he said, see, he's like, do you see how easy, how fast that was? You couldn't even ask for help, could you? And he's like, look again. And so I look again, and then you hear this laughter, going off. And I'm looking, and I'm like, it's just like what it was in reality, just heavy ice, snow, trees just dead, right? That's what I was looking for.
Wow.
But I had to eat crow again. I'm so tired of eating crow. And I'm learning to be like, maybe anything's possible, because they'll come and they'll teach me this lesson, right? And I was like, I had heard there was stuff in the news, and back in the day, different stuff and stories you hear about people saying, I was possessed or something came over me. I don't even know what happened. I did this terrible thing, or I killed somebody, whatever. And they knew it was something dark, and then they were boom, right back in their right mind and couldn't believe what happened. And I had been saying, psh, please, that's, just an alibi. That's just, they got caught or whatever. But he was saying, do you see how easy? And even in the sense of not committing a crime, but just people that are mentally incapacitated at times by these dark entities, they get a real big kick out of it, was the whole point I got. Like, it's just fun for them to play with us and manipulate us. And for me to understand how easy that happens, how snap, crackle, pop that happens, right? And I was allowed to understand it, remember it, and not be harmed by it or anything. But I'm telling you, you talk about a mind F, like that was
I totally would be.
That has to be my number one, because that really, I believed what I was seeing was this, it was just this beautiful harvest, and then right back to reality. And I don't know. Yeah. I can't explain that. I can't explain it.
Oh, look. Sharon says, now I'm intrigued. I have to see what I missed. Yes, you will have to see what you missed.
Yeah.
But yes, no, like you were saying, that is a complete, mind-blowing thing. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do if that happened to me. I'd there'd be two things. I'd either be scared, or I'd just be like, "Oh, you MFer."
Yeah, I was kind of all of it,
Stop messing with me.
I'm so, like I said, from the cradle up, I've been, surrounded by different stuff. So I've learned to sort of hold, don't interact, just, ignore. But sometimes that doesn't work, because they're interacting with you whether you like it or not. They don't care what you trained yourself to be like. And to answer anybody's question that they haven't asked yet, I usually get asked the question, "Oh, are you used to this after all these years?" No, I'm not used to it. No, I don't ever get used to it, and it's never the same thing, and it's always something different. So no, you don't ever get used to it. I don't at all.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, I've never had any experiences, with angels, light or dark. It's just mostly paranormal, ghosts. I can't say that I have experience with aliens, the chupacabra.
Right.
So Teal, you say you're from North Texas?
Yes, I was born and raised in Dallas. Yeah. So.
Oh wow. See, I'm from South Texas. I'm from the way deep south. I'm like right next to Mexico.
Okay. All right. I've been there maybe about on family's ranch out there on the border of Mexico, and I've ridden horses down right by the river where people cross over, because we would see them crossing over.
Yeah.
But so, I was riding horses one time, and a whole pack of javelina hogs started chasing us. And for anybody who doesn't know, javelina hogs are just all muscle. They're hogs, and they have the big tusks, and everything.
And they make good barbecue.
If they don't eat you, if they do, if they don't eat you, and I've never held on to a horse so tight in my life. And I had a friend of mine, friend of the family I was visiting. It was a teenage boy, with me. We were teenagers, and he had never ridden a horse. And I said, "Listen, I've been riding my whole life. It's going to be nothing to it." Yeah, that's right, Sago Bunny. And so I was like telling him, I was like, "This is the worst day of your life, right?" And I said, "Hang on to me. Do not let go, no matter what happens." And I'm hanging on to this horse. I said, "We're going to get back, but this is crazy," because I didn't know that we were going to get back. And we ran. We were riding like the wind, and they were a wealthy family, and so they had a lot of workers who were armed and everything. And so we're running through the gates, and they got their guns and everything. So we get the gates are shut. I'm in safe, but terrified. I don't think that friend of mine ever got on a horse again. That was like never, never, never. But yeah, being chased by javelina hogs is that's another different kind of experience. Yeah.
Well, Teal, it's been great having you on this, man. I love your stories and stuff. I love this show, but it's already my time, and thank you for coming on.
Hey, anytime. I had a great time, and thanks to all the fans for watching. Appreciate
it.
Yes.
Well, that's my show for today. I'm Mikey, and I'll see you next Monday on Out of the Ordinary.
Good night, everybody.
This is Mr. Applewhite speaking. There is nothing wrong with your device. Join me here on Psycho Bunny DC. A delightfully dreadful consternation of horror content